Oh, well, now we're started. Hola, cage fighting connoisseurs. This is Kid Nate, who's out of focus, and Zane Simon, who is overly brightly lit, and I just sent off to mess with this light bulb while after I started the show. But we are here to talk about UFC 181, and for those of you who are tuning in thinking you're going to get some free pay-per-view fighting action, you came to the wrong place. Go ahead and give us a dislike on YouTube. Everybody else, if you like this, give us a like, because the haters are going to be out because they think that there's a sixth round in an MMA fight. Anyway, we had a controversial split decision. New champion, UFC welterweight champion Robbie Lawler. I never thought I would say that. I've been watching this
Oh my
fight
God,
for
yeah.
14 years and had long since given up, especially during this fight. At the beginning of the fourth round, Robbie Lawler looked like a zombie from Walking Dead, staggering around and managed to come back and convinced two of the judges he won the fight. Zane Simon, how did you score the fight?
I had it 3-2 for Lawler, but
Really?
yes,
First, fourth, and fifth.
first, fourth, and fifth, because I mean the thing is, I thought that there was a very good chance the judges weren't going to give it to him,
I
but I
I
mean,
thought there was no chance Lawler was going to get the decision.
but the thing is, and I keep having to say this every time we get a weird decision where people are like, oh well, what the fuck is up with that scorecard? And I mean, biggest thing judges are looking for is dynamic offense that changes the fight in a round when they're scoring a round.
It's true.
That
And
is like
Lawler definitely had that in the
criteria
first
number
round.
one.
Definitely had that in the fifth round. So from there, he only needs to get one more round. And the fourth round, I think Hendricks let
Well,
Lawler off the hook.
Hendricks looked like he was out underneath Lawler. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Like, I was watching the end of that round. It's like, oh my God, Hendricks is hurt. Is he about to get finished right here? He looked done. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, if you think about that itself, like, what in that round is more impactful than that? What do you remember about that round
I don't
more
like
than
the word impactful. So, but yeah, no, there's otherwise nothing. There was nothing more devastating in that round than what Lawler did, and Hendricks had every opportunity to pour it on in the fourth round, and it seemed like he set his gas pedal on coast. And
Yeah, or in the second and the third too. I mean, he did well in the second, but in
yeah,
the third, he was already starting to take his foot off the gas. And this is the thing, is that other than Hendricks, Lawler won. Like, that is the only time I've ever seen Lawler or Hendricks really look great late in the fight. I mean,
yeah, because he had to. He thought he was behind,
yeah,
or he thought he was really in doubt. Whereas I think in this fight he got overconfident because he won the second, because he won the third, and because Robbie Lawler came out in the fourth looking completely shot. And did you notice the
yeah, because I mean,
weird
like
quivering lip thing Lawler was doing in between rounds?
I missed that. I missed Lawler's quivering lip thing.
He just thank you for making me sound like a complete idiot asshole, but that's why we call him that fucking idiot, St. Simon. So no, but he looked like his hand was hurt. Rogan was going crazy speculating about a hurt hand. I felt like he was making an involuntary movement with his lower lip between rounds that made me think that he was in, like if he had a broken hand. Like I could
Yeah,
see you having, if you're having some serious trauma, which, being in a championship 5-round UFC fight is somewhere short of being in a fender bender and a major head-on collision. So,
yeah. No,
it's,
I thought that the broken hand suspicion may have been right on until the end of that fourth, where he just started wailing away with it. So it could have just been that it went numb.
yeah,
Could be it was still broken. But I mean, this is something that Mookie brought this up on Twitter too, and if we're talking about late fight Hendricks, I mean, you go back his Carlos Condit fight. Condit was pouring it on him late. You
yeah,
know, Josh Koscheck was pouring it on him late. That was a
yes,
split decision. Mike Pierce was a split decision.
yes, the Mike,
TJ Grant was a majority decision. His
yeah.
only unanimous decision win in the UFC, other than the first Lawler fight, was Ricardo Funch in his debut.
Who's a top, well, okay, so who's long since gone from the UFC. So, immediate rematch?
No, no.
No. Who deserves a
Hendricks
title shot?
Hendricks is not the kind of champion that needs to get an immediate rematch.
Yeah,
This
he's
is a
not
division.
GSP. This is a one fight reign we're talking about ending.
Yeah, this is a division in turmoil. that that like when you have a major long-term champion that loses, you usually have 4 or 5 guys right under him who are going to go be contending for that title and who are all about even. I mean, you look at the division after, was it Chuck Liddell that was the last like reigning long-term light heavyweight champ before
Before
Jones?
John Jones, yeah.
Yeah, after Chuck Liddell, you had like 4 guys hold that belt for one fight.
Rampage Jackson, Forrest Griffin, uh, Rashad Evans, Lyoto Machida, Shogun Hua, and boom, John
Yeah.
Jones took it and kept it. So yes, that's quite possible that this will happen. But the more important thing is, I picked Johnny Hendricks, goddammit, and I think he should have won.
I picked him too, and I was watching that fight, and I heard Joe Rogan in the first round say, or no, second round, he said Lawler, or no, third round, getting all confused. Third
This is
round,
an impressive run of broadcasting right
I know.
here.
Joe Rogan said in the third round, Lawler has to get a KO to win, and
Yep.
this is when he was losing the third round badly. And this is a fighter who beat, gave a pretty good beating to Hendricks in the first. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't see
Yeah.
any reasonable way he was going to lose that first round.
Nope.
At that point, there is no way that
At one
Lawler
point, though,
has.
Rogan seemed to have forgot that because he said it's
Yeah,
3-0, and then he was like, or the first round, and pretty soon he had himself convinced there was no way Hendricks could have won the first round. So I think
but
he
it
just
was just it was a weird, like, I was rooting for, I expected Hendricks to win this fight, but this ended up being, I mean, it ended up being a really weird fight. By the time the fourth round was over, it was just like, I even, wrote it. It was just like, this fight could be 2-2, and that's really weird. Like, it's been utterly dominated by Hendricks for 2 rounds, and yet we could still be at 2-2.
yep. Lawler poured it on, and the blitz he put on at the end of the fifth round was very impressive. It didn't do any devastating damage to Hendricks, but it definitely claimed dominance there. I mean, Lawler was asserting his presence in a way that Hendricks never did at any point in the fight.
Yeah.
In the first round, Lawler came out and hurt him. Fifth round, Lawler came out just firing, or didn't come out, but towards the end of the round, turned it on, just came out firing. So, split decision. I thought Hendricks took it, but the more I think about it, the more time it gets to digest, the less upset I am about it. So, let's talk about a dominant champion, Anthony Pettis, lightweight champion, defeats Gilbert Melendez, second round, minute 53. I thought Melendez was, like Melendez said, he thought he had the game plan to beat Pettis. It was looking like he had a chance to dominate Pettis and grind on Pettis, but what I think we saw is you don't have time to grind on Pettis for 5 rounds. He's gonna hurt you. He's gonna submit you. The guy's too dangerous to try to play a game of grinding dominance and get a decision against him.
Yeah, that's a scary win for challengers to Anthony Pettis, because that is, I mean, Melendez had the right game plan and he was executing it pretty much perfectly.
Yeah,
And
the
he
hooks he
still,
was throwing, he was making
yeah,
Pettis miss with some nice ducks. It was, the pressure, the relentless pressure, the clinch, the takedowns, the leg right he had on him. I mean, he was doing everything right, but I think to beat Pettis, it's like pitching a no-hitter against a really dangerous lineup, and Melendez just couldn't do it. And it's too bad for Gilbert Melendez. I think this is probably his last chance at a UFC title in his
hmm
career. It's been a long and storied career, and he came close to the mountaintop twice. A lot of people, including me, think he beat Benson Henderson, but nobody thinks he beat Anthony Pettis. So what's next for Anthony Pettis? Is Khabib Nurmagomedov going to get that title shot right away, or what?
I hope so. That's the fight to make. That's the one fight that I can think of that could be on the horizon where I'm like, man, I still don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I think if I think of Khabib Art versus Rafael dos Anjos hit Khabib quite a bit. Khabib walked right through him and took him down over and over again. But, like, I still have to give Pettis the advantage if Khabib's going to give him any space to land a bunch of hard shots.
Yeah, which I think he will. I
Still,
don't think.
it's the only fight on the horizon where I would still wonder. I'd be like, man, this guy has a chance to do it.
Yeah, yeah, that's because I just looking at the rest of the division. I mean, the top 15. uh, there's not a lot of excitement. I mean, we've already seen him destroy Donald Cerrone. I don't think Rafael Dos Anjos is going anywhere near it. He's beat Ben Henderson twice. I mean, what's out there? Josh Thompson, Edson Barboza, Miles Jury. It's pretty slim pickings. Eddie Alvarez needs a couple fights to turn it around. Rustam Kabalov can't get a visa. So I do not think the lightweight division is a division in turmoil. Do you? Do you think this
No,
is a
no. I
short
think
run? This.
that barring Khabib, and because I think the big thing that should also be noted in this is that how much better an athlete Anthony Pettis is than the standard elite athlete, even at lightweight. I mean, because that's how he won this fight. Like,
Yeah,
don't
the
we shouldn't
explosion
be
into the
mistaken.
guillotine was so fast.
And just the ability to like land one shot for every two you're getting hit with and still hurt your opponent far worse than he's hurting you.
Yeah,
Like that kind of athleticism and power and speed, you have to be at that level to compete with it. And Khabib is the only guy who might be near that level. Khabib is just a monster athlete.
yeah, he's an exceptional athlete, and he's got a very different game from Pettis. It's a dynamic game, but it's very wrestling based, and so it's an exciting contrast. And we'll see, but after Khabib,
No, it's
there's not a lot on the shelf. Eddie Alvarez was a big hope, but Donald Cerrone, and I think that was foolish on their part to book Alvarez against somebody like Cerrone, who has some clear stylistic advantages, including and size, against Alvarez when Cerrone is not a title contender by virtue of having been steamrolled by Anthony Pettis on his way to the title. So I don't know where we go from there. And so the third biggest topic coming out of this fight card is the signing of CM Punk. Zane,
yeah.
when the UFC assumed near monopoly control over the top tiers of fighting a couple years ago, people were saying, this is it. We're finally going to get some 0-0 middle-aged wrestlers to come in and fight at the highest level of sport right off the streets because of their celebrity status and ability to draw on TV. We've seen this before in MMA. It's not exactly what we think of as the Zuffa brand. I mean, did they do this just as a defensive move to keep him from signing with Bellator, or is this something you, as a hardcore fan, you say you love prospects? Who could be more exciting than CM Punk?
Oh, no, let me put it this way. A, this is to keep him from going to Bellator. B, this is a smart move that I like and I'm actually really excited about, and has nothing to do with CM Punk being any sort of prospect.
I see. And so who are you excited about seeing him fight in the UFC?
I don't care. I'm excited to watch him on screen and then to watch him lose. Like, if Jason Statham told Dana White that he wanted to fight in the UFC, I'd be excited as hell to watch Jason Statham go out and just get the crap kicked out of him by some dude.
I see.
Like, that would be fun. Like,
Isn't that just celebrity boxing except it's MMA? I mean,
yeah, but well, the point would be the difference between having a whole league built around it and having like a breath of fresh air,
I
having something
see.
occasionally different. I mean, we're in an age where the UFC is churning out one good card for every 10 mediocre cards, and
I would argue the ratio is a little better than that, but it's not good.
it's not good. It's one to every 7, maybe. You know, like,
Maybe to 4, but it's 4 or 5 probably.
it's still, this card was a big step up from a lot of the shows
I
this
think
year.
this was the best or the second best card on paper of the year. As the fights went through, I wouldn't say it's probably in the top 5 or 6. It wasn't
It
the
delivered.
most.
It delivered. It
Yeah,
really.
it delivered, and it was important. You had two major
Yeah.
fights on this card. You also had Todd Duffy. I mean, basically being fed a scrub, but you know, good to see him get a win. The heavyweight division needed a breath of fresh air. You see Travis Brown demolish Brennan Schaub in pretty dominant fashion. So trying to get him back on track, and impressive to see Tony Ferguson beating Abel Trujillo. Is Ferguson somebody that could be an intriguing lightweight contender at some point?
Um, no. Ferguson is a really fun, good fighter, but I think he's also showing that his ceiling is not a lot higher than like Abel Trujillo. It's basically his ceiling is Danny Castillo. Like he's hit that
Yeah.
ceiling, and it doesn't have a lot to do with his skills really, or even his athletic ability. I mean, he was well behind Trujillo athletically, but that didn't matter in terms of his ability to compete. He was able to just wait out the bigger, stronger, faster athlete and then pick him apart. But it's
Yeah.
just his decision making. His decision making has progressively gotten worse as he's become a more diverse athlete, and he puts himself in position to lose fights, and that's not something that you survive with as you go up the ranks.
No, no, and I was thinking about having Victor Rodriguez come on, but now I'm looking at the undercard, and I actually have something to say about at least two, maybe three of the undercard fights. So Victor might not get his big chance after all. But Uriah Faber and Francisco Rivera. Should Joe Rogan and Goldberg be on a Staten Island grand jury the next time a cop is up there? I mean, with this, it was 100% accidental, obviously, a
Oh yeah.
completely inadvertent eye poke, and yet Uriah Faber took his open hand and speared it at Rivera's eye as hard as he
Look,
could.
Nate, who's to say what accidental even means? I mean, these are just words here. These are just words. You can't put a set value
On
what
words.
on what a man does with his hands. I mean,
Exactly. Who are you going to believe? Your lion eyes or Goldberg and Rogan when they tell you it was
yeah.
completely accidental? And when the UFC is in charge of drug testing and a foreign commission, it's completely well handled and everything is above board. So, take it to the bank right there. It's uh,
It,
just,
it it was a great. This is what I'll say. It's the reason that a guy like Faber is going to keep winning fights even when he's
yes,
past the point of winning every fight. Like
yes.
that is smart fighting from him. That's
It is, it
crafty
is, it
old
is.
man veteran stuff.
It is crafty old man, championship level crafty
Yeah.
old man veteran stuff. So that's our boy. I mean, that's the GSP style. I always applauded when GSP would get. I mean, GSP was like clockwork. He was going to get one kick to your balls every round, like championship nut shot. Just like every round he was going to take his nut shot, like and
Yep.
so you got to hand it to Faber, but otherwise he was getting it handed to him, not brutally, but it was
But
looking
he
like
was losing. Yeah, he was
yeah,
trying to be an in and out striker against somebody who
is a
was
better
younger and
striker
looked faster and more powerful this
and
fight.
bigger.
Yeah.
Which is strange since Faber wasn't a particularly big featherweight, but it's always weird to see a guy move down a weight class and still be smaller. And so, it doesn't really take us anywhere except Faber will be continuing to take out the garbage. I think at this point I'm much less interested in seeing him on the pay-per-view ticket.
Well,
I don't think he's
we've
really relevant.
officially seen the point where the wheels are falling off, and he's now he's getting by on being a crafty vet, and like
Yeah,
full power to him for being there because this career is short and you're not going to make a lot of money. Most guys aren't. He's certainly done well for himself, but like this is we knew that there was a point that Faber was going to stop being Faber. Every fighter hits that wall, and
it's
this
true.
was that fight.
Yes, yes, yes. It's absolutely true. But one fighter, a friend of, not a friend of, a member of the family, the MMA
Yeah.
Nation's own, Josh Salmon, beat Eddie Gordon. Great story. Josh has had a horrible year. His girlfriend passed in a tragic one-car accident. He recovering, going through the grieving process, which I can only imagine the agony of that, and condolences still out to him and his family. I mean, the thing about losing something like that's close to you is a year later it's still a completely fresh gaping wound. And
Hmm.
so then he's out with an injury, and then he's fighting on her birthday today,
Yeah.
what would have been her birthday, and then was losing the fight to Eddie Gordon, was getting taken down and he wasn't he was controlling Gordon's posture on the ground, but he wasn't able to get out, and that's a
Yeah.
way to head to a losing decision. Then he comes up with this very awkward-looking but crafty stutter step switch kick that caught Eddie Gordon completely completely, perfectly by surprise and perfectly on the chin with the shin, knocked him out. Amazing win for Josh Salmon. I was really, really, really happy to see that.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And I mean, really, what it pays homage to on his part is the fact that for a middleweight, he's a really high output, high cardio fighter.
Yep.
And because Gordon was obviously in there watching the fight, Gordon was obviously the superior athlete. I mean, Saman was getting in on his hips on takedowns, and Gordon would just like put his hands on him, flip him over, and be on top of him. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
Gordon was bigger and stronger, but Saman pushes such a great pace, and he's got such great cardio, and he fights with so much aggression that as that fight went on, even if he's trapped on the bottom, he's making Gordon work, and Gordon's slowly wearing down, and finally they get separated on the feet again, and Gordon's just not ready.
No.
And that was,
No.
I think that
And
was what we saw, and it was beautiful. It was fantastic.
it really was. You just have to applaud the craftiness and resourcefulness of a dude who can work a move like that that is not going to win like a martial arts point fighting exhibition contest. Like people are going to look at that and go, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like you're not going to catch people with this." And then to catch a guy with it, because it
Yeah.
was tricky. He switched his stances, and I think it was perfect for somebody like Eddie Gordon who's got the gifts but might not have the skills and experience yet to be aware of something like that. So definitely hats off to Josh and all our love and condolences too. And so that was awesome. And nothing against Eddie Gordon. I mean like Eugene and I were saying on the Care Don't Care. If he's not planning on ruining Josh's pity party, he's not a fighter. Like you have to bone up and be a complete evil asshole in this game. And he played his part, but it was Josh's night. And the only other fights I want to talk about are Raquel Pennington and Ashley Evans Smith's technical submission from a bulldog choke. It took her a while to figure out how to finish the bulldog choke.
Yeah.
And talk about right on the deadline. They ruled it as 4:59, but
It was 5.
yeah,
It
was 5. The buzzer was ringing, and it was only that she was unconscious when they separated. So that's the first technical submission to bulldog choke I've ever seen.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen I don't know if Ninamaki versus what's his name? Nicholas Backstrom was a technical submission or not, because
Did
that
he
was
choke
also,
him out?
I don't know if he did. I can't remember if he did or not, but that was the most recent bulldog choke I remember, and it was a pretty
Yeah.
quick and brutally powerful one, but I'm not sure if he went out or not.
Let's see. It was not a technical submission. It was
Okay.
just a submission. So yeah, and obviously the famous Carlos Newton bulldog choke of Pat Miletich to end the nightmarish, hellish, boring reign of Pat Miletich as UFC champion. But I can't think of a bulldog choke that ended in a unconsciousness. So hats off to Raquel Pennington, and the other comment, Sergio Pettis against Matt Hobar. Hobar came out, cracked him with the left hand, and did pretty well early on when the fight featured a lot of grappling, but it didn't take Pettis long to show that he was the far more skilled and athletic fighter in the cage.
Yeah, I'm really getting tired of people talking about how Pettis should go back down to flyweight, because honestly, it's obvious that athleticism and power are not his problem. Like the problem
Yeah.
early in that fight is that he's not a technically good wrestler at all. He still does not have a good technical command of wrestling. Is still
No.
very eager, way too eager to play a guard game.
Yeah. His brother, to some extent, has the same problem. Of course, his brother has a pretty deadly guard game, and that makes a big difference. But that wasn't what caused him to be sitting on his butt seconds into the first round. I mean,
No.
he waltzed into a left hook with his hands down.
Yeah, Pettis fought that fight like he was just gonna athlete through and power through Matt Hobar. I mean, same thing that Anthony Pettis did to Gilbert Melendez. Quite honestly, they both went out and fought like they were just going to win by value of being the better athlete, and eventually for Pettis it took finally settling in and finding his rhythm in the fight to where he could really start landing his offense effectively and make his athleticism work for him rather than just expecting it to work for him for Anthony Pettis, it just really was being an amazing athlete. I mean,
Yeah, and a very skilled athlete as
yeah,
well. I
they're
mean,
both very skilled. It's not saying
yeah,
they're just athletic, but it's that idea of like not necessarily setting things up technically as much as you are just knowing that you're so much faster and stronger than the guy you're fighting that no matter what he does, you'll be there to beat him at it.
yep, yeah, and very impressive performance, and a lot of. I've got a lot of excitement for Sergio Pettis. I think very skilled, some very sweet techniques, and I think his boxing is better than his brother's.
Yeah, I mean, in general, he's a little slower, I would say. And that's
Hmm.
maybe just part of being younger too. I mean, hitting your athletic prime really is hitting your athletic prime. You get
It's true.
faster and stronger and more agile and all these things. So his ability to really click on all levels may still be a few years away, but he does carry more power in general. I mean, he's just a different fighter. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to call Pettis' boxing worse when he's landing the kind of power shots that had Melendez really wobbled.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think that Anthony is the better kickboxer by far. I just think that his younger brother has shown some sweet jabs and
Yeah.
stiff straights that you just don't see from Pettis. You see more of a looping game. And then two other quick results on this card. I believe we skipped the Corey Anderson Justin Jones fight. Unanimous decision for Anderson. Jones came in on short notice, had power, not a lot else. I wasn't particularly impressed by Anderson. I thought this was a lateral move at best for him.
Well, he's a young light heavyweight. This was just like get the guy some rounds. That's all this was. Was like you've got a guy on short notice. You're not sure what he's gonna do. Don't he didn't take a lot of chances. He just went out there and took rounds, and that's fine. I mean,
Yeah,
he's young.
yep, it's true. It's true. And then Clay Collard and Alex White was not an impressive performance. They were both aggressive, but the lack of defense was appalling. And some of the grappling exchanges reminded me of tough Latin America or tough China, where you just have guys who do not have much grappling experience out there playing at grappling,
Yeah.
and not there yet. But they fought with heart and they gave it their all. So
It's a fight past curtain jerker. I mean, that's exactly what it should be. And
yeah,
I would say that Collard has the ability to become a mid-card action fighter. He has the ability to be like
yeah,
an Anthony Njokuani kind of guy somewhere down
it's
the line.
it's entirely possible, entirely possible. So I believe that's our show. Eugene will be back on Monday with Knuckle Up. We'll have Tom Grant's got a special technique feature that's coming on Tuesdays that we're running on our B channel. I don't know if you ever noticed. It's a secret B channel. We'll tell you more about how to subscribe to that. And I don't even know what the Ultimate Fighter finale is next, actually, and so
Yeah,
that
and
should
then
be fairly
Fox
interesting.
13. So JDS coming
Yes,
back.
Junior Dos Santos. So we'll be busy, busy, busy through the month of December, leading up to the January 3rd John Jones versus Daniel Cormier fight. So stick around. Subscribe to MMANation.com for all our video. Hoo-ha. Read us at BloodyElbow.com. You can follow Zane on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. I'm at KidNate. Give this video a like. And adios, MMA aficionados. Thanks a lot, Zane.